Candy on WTAN FM 106.1 and AM 1340.
Tampa Bay's Tan Talk. Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
Looking for car shows? Then look no further than FLACarshows.com. On your computer or on your mobile device, FLACarshows.com is a comprehensive list of automotive events, plus videos and news articles. Whether you're looking for car shows, cruise-ins, meetups, automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at FLACarshows.com.
What do you do? You're not an engineer. You're not a designer. You can't put a hammer to a nail. I built the circuit board. The graphical interface was stolen. So how come 10 times in a day, I read Steve Jobs as a genius? What do you do?
Musicians play their instruments. I play the orchestra. I hear you've been worse than usual this morning. I didn't think that was possible.
It's a system error.
Fix it.
Fix it?
Yeah.
We're not a pit crew at Daytona. This can't be fixed in seconds.
You didn't have seconds. You had 3 weeks. The universe was created in a third of that time.
Well, someday you'll have to tell us how you did it.
I'm begging you to manage expectations out there.
You see how this reminds you of a friendly face? It's warm and it's playful and inviting and it needs to say hello.
If you keep alienating people for no reason, there's be no one left for it to say hello to.
Your Apple stock was worth $441 million, while your daughter and her mother are on welfare.
She's not my daughter!
You must be able to see that she looks like you.
You're issuing contradictory instructions. You're insubordinate. You make people miserable.
Even if that were true, doesn't sound that diabolical to me.
We've spoken to the fire marshal and the building manager. They're going to come in and tell everyone to leave.
If a fire causes a stampede to the unmarked exits, it'll have been well worth it for those who survive.
The board believes you're no longer necessary to this company.
I sat in a garage and invented the future because artists lead and hacks ask for a show of hands.
You're gonna end me, aren't you?
You're being ridiculous. I'm gonna sit center court and watch you do it yourself.
Make everything all right with Lisa. Fix it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hi, this is Bob Varsha with Speed. You're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, listeners, welcome. You're tuned in to Nostalgic Radio and Cars. I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computer and Google TanTalk1340.com. And you can see me live here in the studios in downtown Clearwater. Don't forget to check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com, where you can find out all about us. And if you missed any of our past shows, don't forget to check out NostalgicRadioandCars.com. Good evening, Edward. How are you?
Good evening. Good Memorial Day weekend, but can't keep telling myself enough it's not Monday, it's Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday. Tomorrow's hump day already.
Oh, man. Time flies when you're having fun. Jeez, it just seems like the other day we had...
What I do on Memorial Day, I designate Saturday as Friday, and then I move Sunday to Saturday and Monday to Sunday. So I figured today was Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I get that. Anyway, like I said, it just seems like the other day was our 15-year anniversary. Anyway, so hey, we got a good show for you. Great show for you tonight. We've got a very special guest coming on. We're going to be talking not so much about cars and music. We're going to be talking business. Like I said, this earlier in the beginning of the year, I kind of made a decision to not only do automotive and music, but I kind of want to venture in business a little bit and economics. Reason being is because, these are real crucial times. The debt is out of control. There's a lot of cars being repoed. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. Everything's overly inflated. And the point of this is because here we are, car guys, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate through our hobby financially. And a lot of people are faced with the ideas, well, let's see, do I buy more? Do I sell? Do I hold? Buy, sell, hold, get it? So I think if I put a little spin on the economic side of things a little bit and kind of give you a little bit better idea on and which parts of the industry are kind of, affected. Obviously, one of the things we always want to talk about too is, necessities first. A man's home is his castle, which is his garage. The woman owns the house. And you're lucky if you have a couch in your garage and a table and, internet and a couple of a computer and a few things like that and a radio. I mean, that's really all you need. And some libations, as they say, drinkable items and some snacks. Just stopped by my buddy Alan's a little while ago, and I brought him, what did I bring him? A couple of lollipops I got from the bank and some Doritos and a few things like that. Guys need snacks. It's not like guys are simple. We're easy to please. We're not really complicated. Well, for the most part. Anyway, I should preface by saying maybe car guys are simple. Okay. And, but at any rate, so we're going to be talking, we're going to have a gentleman coming on who's a former CEO of a company that many of you guys will recognize because we've all used their red top products. There's the hint. And so it should be kind of interesting. This past weekend, where was I going with this thing? We're talking a little bit about economics and stuff like that. I was just talking to a friend of mine and we were talking about the auctions, and auction numbers are still good. A big shout out to my friends over here at PJ's Auto World, Bill and those guys down there. They're doing pretty good. John, another car collector I know. Hank, another car collector I know. Obviously Alan, myself included. My regular listeners are the car guys. If you got a big enough garage, like some of my friends, you can have 20, 30 cars, 40 cars. I know I heard somebody squealing the other day. They, damn, I got 36 cars. I said, I feel for you, man. Yeah. Meanwhile, I got another friend of mine who's got, 40 or 50. I was in another friend of mine's shop. He probably had easily 50 to 75, maybe even more motorcycles. There were so many motorcycles on top of each other. They were stacked on each other. And then he had probably about another 15 or so cars and boats, a real cool classic vintage wood boat, kind of a speedy type kind of boat. And a boat that's really interesting that one of my favorites, and that was, he's got a cigarette, but it's got a 28 SS, which is kind of a rare boat. And, back in the 60s, 28-foot boat, 30-foot boat was a big boat. Today, that's nothing. I mean, it's like a lot of my friends today have 50-footers. Back then, I was just talking to a friend of mine when I was going down the road the other day. I just saw a guy with a cobia. Now, cobias used to be a real popular boat back in the 70s, and I'm not sure where they were made, but they were real common around here. So if you had a 16, 18-foot cobia, 18-foot cobia was real common, and you had maybe a 75 Johnny Rude or a Merc on the back or maybe even a Chrysler. 125 horse motor was big, but I mean, the motor was maybe under $2,000. The boat, I mean, you all rigged and everything in the water, possibly with a trailer, $5,000 for a boat, $7,500 for a little bit nicer boat with some nice goodies on it. I'm trying to think what my Boston Whaler cost me back then. I think it was like, they were originally in the 70s, they were like a couple grand. Then in the 80s, they were like $3,000-4,000. I had a little 40 horse Merc on it. And I had a 38-foot cigarette too at one point, Top Gun. So, but back then that boat was like $100,000. Today, that same boat's $1 million. Now think about that. I mean, I don't know if, I'm trying to tie, this is some of the stuff that we're going to get into, inflation. I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, in 1972, my paychecks were $1.18 an hour. I worked at my mom and dad's motel. And I remember getting my check, $1.18 an hour is what I made. And I was joking because we walked down and we had a motel on the beach. And I walked down to the other end of the beach to the Travel Lodge because they had a little restaurant there. And I remember getting 2 hamburgers and a glass of water. And that cost me $1 plus sales tax. And I think sales tax might have been 6% back or 5% back then. So it was $1.05, you know? So, I mean, here it is. I worked for 1 hour to get 2 hamburgers, you know? Gasoline when 72, when I got my driver's license and on October 25th, 1972, it was 26 to 31 cents. I mean, 31, 32 cents was Sunoco 260, you know, which was 102, 103, 104 octane. Crappy gas back then was like 97, 98 octane, 96 octane or something like that, you know, and that was like 26 cents, 26.9. All right, so let's call it 27. And then I think your medium gas, you know, regular, that would have been regular. And then regular high test, you know, high test was probably about 29 cents, 30 cents maybe. But Sunoco 260 was higher octane. And then it was Amoco White. And so, you know, I mean, it's like, okay, so a really, really nice Corvette back then cost you maybe $6,000 all in. A really, really nice Shelby cost you $5,500 all in. An AC Cobra 289 was just under $6,000. A 427 car was over $6,000, closer to $7,000. You know, those are multi-million-dollar cars a day. And so it's kind of wacky. House back then, I remember Island Estates, you could buy a house for $40,000 to $50,000, a nice home with a pool and a dock on Island Estates back then. My parents bought a house on Clearwater Beach. I think we paid, because we wanted to be close to the motel, $35,000. That's what my parents paid for a little house with a dock. And I remember it was just the coolest thing coming from California. As far as we're concerned, you know, California ruled, you know, but I do remember the TV show Flipper. So we thought everybody lived on the water in Florida, and we thought that would be kind of cool. Sure enough, it was when I got here, you know, and you keep your little boat hanging off a set of davits off the side of the boat. I think my dad bought a boat. It was a little 17-foot or 18-foot Pierre Marquette, and I think it had a 75 Johnny Root on it. Maybe it was a Merc. I'm not sure. And Island Estates, there was the, you know, Island Estates Marina there, you know, and High and Dry over there, we called it. We used to go over there for fuel. It's water skiing around here. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty cool. I guess where I'm going with this one is because next week, a big shout out to Clearwater High School class of 1975. I have my 50th class reunion. 50, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners. 50-year class reunion. It's hard to believe. So with a little luck, I'll get the old Ranchero running because I drove that in high school, and it's 52 years old. So that would be kind of cool. I got a text from one of the guys, Fred. Big shout out to Fred. He's our fearless leader for class of 75 for Clearwater High School, CHS, the Tornadoes, all that other good stuff. I wasn't into any of that stuff. I was just a kid with a fast car in school. I got plenty of marks to prove it, at least back in the day on the street, in the parking lot. Got in trouble for it a few times. But we had a little class there called Small Engines. Big shout out to old Mr. Schreiner. Pretty cool dude. Mr. Graham was our woodshop teacher, and we had the back part of the building down there, which was really, you know, woodshop and small engines. And we just used to hang out there. It was a 3-hour class, small engine. It was really neat. This is 72, 73, or 73, 74, somewhere around there. And that was pretty neat. I mean, it was a trades class. You know, we worked on small engines. That's what started out as small engines. Then the teacher goes, hey, who wants to work on small engines? Yeah, all right. Who wants to work on a motorcycle? Oh, yeah. Who wants to work on cars? Everybody. So, you know, that's how that evolved. And then next thing you know, we're all messing around with cars and stuff like that. So anyway, CHS, 50-year reunion, Clearwater High School, Tornadoes, cool. We might do a special next week. I'm not sure. I haven't thought about it. Anyway, on that note.
I was going to say I had that class too.
What class?
Briggs and Stratton engines.
Briggs and Stratton engines. Oh, okay. Yeah. Briggs and Stratton. Yeah, Briggs
I had to take the whole thing apart, put it back together. You pull start, you passed.
That's pretty much, yeah. And we also, and don't forget Tecumseh's were pretty much the same thing back then. Right. Cool. All right. On that note, Ed, let's go ahead and fire up the stereo. Let's play a little E-Gals. You're tuning into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. And this goes out to our guest, Outlaw Man. Tune in to Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Hand out the Bible, in the other I got a gun. Life on the road is the life of an outlaw. Man. First left my woman, it was down in Santa Fe. Hit a Oklahoma, I was riding night and day. All my friends are strangers, they quickly come and go. All my love's in danger, cause I steal hearts and souls. Woman, don't try to love me, don't try to understand. A life on the road is a life of an outlaw.
Hi, I'm Bob Lutz, former vice chairman of General Motors, and I like listening to nostalgic radio and cars and Semper Fi.
Okay, we're back, and you tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. It's time to introduce our special guest for the evening. And you heard me mention the word red top. Well, I mean, what product comes to mind when you hear a red top? What little device, little tool, little something or other do you everybody identifies with a red top? Well, anyway, this gentleman is the former CEO of WD-40, and we're going to get into that. He's also authored a book called Any Dumbass Can Do It. I'm delighted to welcome to the show this evening, Gary Ridge. Gary, how are you?
Hey, nice to be with you. Thank you.
All the way from true Southern California, San Diego.
You bet.
I grew up in Northern California. I'm from Marin County originally. And so everybody used to say, oh, LA, Southern California. I go, no. San Diego's way down, past Temecula, past Oceanside. I mean, San Diego's right there on the border. That's Southern Cal. But at any rate.
It sure is. We're not far from the border, that's for sure.
Too close, right?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it's good to go down to Mexico and enjoy some of the good stuff down there as long as things are safe. All good.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I want to welcome you to Nostalgic Radio and Cars again. And so, Gary, for our listeners, give us a little background on yourself. You're from Australia, correct?
I am. Yeah, I grew up in Sydney, Australia. I went to a little high school called Des Moines Boys High School. I started off my career, doing a lot of things. I was a paper boy, a milk delivery guy, worked at retail stores, went to high school, finished high school, went to work with a retailing company, and eventually worked for a company in Australia that was the licensee for WD-40. And then in 1987, I was given the opportunity to open the Australian subsidiary for WD-40. And in 1984, they asked me to move to the US. So I packed up my toys with the family and moved to San Diego.
Is WD-40 based out of San Diego?
WD-40 was invented in San Diego. Back in 1953, the company was called Rocket Chemical Company. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a fledgling little business here, had about 4 employees. And there was a challenge with condensation and corrosion in the umbilical cord of the Atlas space rocket. And the chemists got together and started to see if they could come up with a solution. And they worked on it. And Formula 1 didn't work, and Formula 10 didn't work, and Formula 20 didn't work, and 25 and 32 and 38 and 39 didn't work. But guess what? 40 worked. And that's why it's called WD Water Displacement 40th Formula. And it's history from there. Now, that blue and yellow can with the little red top is in 176 countries around the world.
Just a little side note here. And I don't know if you're really a car guy or not, but the Porsche 356, as an example, was not the first, not the second, but it was the 356th effort drawing and test car that they built that finally was able to go down the road, and therefore it is called the Porsche 356. So kind of an interesting comparison there, and I wonder how many other companies over the years, their products have a numerical significance as a result of how many tries, before they finally got it right. And then they go, you know what, to commemorate our 28th time or our 500th time, let's call it 500. Or in this case,
interesting
40.
To know.
Yeah.
Be interesting to know.
So where I'm going with this, I want you to back up a little bit. So when you were a kid, okay, what did you have for hobbies when you were in Australia?
Well, my dad was an engineer, so he taught me different things. But I used to milk cows down at my cousin's dairy farm. My hobbies were really around, playing rugby in school, and I was very intrigued with business. I loved the working in retail stores and stuff like that. I collected stamps, believe it or not. I still have quite a collection of Australian stamps, which reminds me I should really get them valued one day. And I was just an ordinary Aussie kid, going to school and doing my stuff and enjoying being part of what is great about Australia, which is a great family country.
So I kind of read this as, so you were kind of like, all right, kind of in sports and athletics and stuff, but you gravitated towards business, and that's kind of what kind of you took a big interest in it, and that's kind of how you got to where you are today, because that interest. And for you, would it be fair to say that business was a passion?
Well, people, Robert, were a passion.
Oh, okay.
And in business, I was not that athletic. I played rugby and I wasn't that damn good at it. But, if you've ever watched a rugby game, you know that it's rough and tumble, but it's all about relationships. But it was really about people, Robert. And I really loved working in environments where I could interact with people and learn more about life from people. I'll tell you a story. When I was a paper boy, and I think I was 12 or 14 years old, I used to deliver papers to a little old lady who lived in one of the streets that I delivered to, and her name was Mrs. Peel. And I think she was well into her late 80s, early 90s. And I used to take the newspaper to her every evening, and at the end of the week, she would give me a bag of what we call in Australia lollies, what they call in the US candy. And what I realized was I was her connection with that newspaper to the world, but I thought it was so beautiful that she would recognize that by giving me a bag of, lollies or candy. So I think life is about great experiences and creating, really purposeful moments for people. And that's what I think is so important. And that's why it's important in business today. So many people go home from work every day now and they're not happy. And that's the challenge that we have, and we've got to do something about that.
So the theme is culture and business. Okay. So where I'm going with this, or where you will be going here shortly, is tell us when it first became apparent to you that we have I'll call it a form of friction between white collar, blue collar, and just the lack of teamwork and continuity between upper, middle, and lower management, and how that affects business in general. And in fact, early in the show, I played a little clip from the Steve Jobs movies, and I don't know if one of my questions down the road is going to be, did you interact with any other top-level executives? But go ahead and kind of expound on that a little bit.
Well, I don't know that there needs to be that disconnect, Robert. I think that, my mom, who lived till she was 99 years and 9 months old, told me that even the Queen of England sits down to pee, which means we're all pretty equal. And one of the things I think is important about leadership. If you're running a business, you're not corporate royalty. We're all no one was made bad, and we need to just interact with people, treat them with respect and dignity, show them that they belong. Show them that the work they mean is meaningful, and spend a lot of time in what I call the stinky locker room. And that's being with your people, hearing your people, talking to your people, understanding your people.
So when you first moved from Australia to San Diego that you had a chance? And you probably always had this kind of philosophy, but was it when you became like upper level management and beyond? Is that when you started implementing that?
Well, I think that the important thing is, and I talk about it in my book, Any Dumbass Can Do It. I think dumbassery is your superpower. And when you realize as a leader that you need all the help you can get. You know, when I was in my role at WD-40, I often introduced myself as, "G'day, I'm Gary Ridge. I'm the consciously incompetent, probably wrong and roughly right chairman and CEO of WD-40 Company, and I need all the help I can get." And that was so true, because I don't have all the answers. So our job as leaders is to do what we need to do to make people comfortable sharing their knowledge, their experiences, and what they're good at.
How did the board of directors respond to the title of the book and your philosophy? Because they're generally more business, bean counter, money, oriented.
I don't think that's true, Robert.
No?
I think it depends. And I haven't really asked any of my past board of directors, because I haven't spoken to them for a while, what they think about the title of the book. But, I was fortunate that I had a board of directors that really understood that it's all about the people. And when we recruited board members, we made sure that we recruited people that, really did understand that people are our big asset. It's all about the people. And they were very supportive.
How many people work for WD-40? At least when you first started, when you came to California, rather, and then today.
I guess today because we outsource all our manufacturing, we don't have a manufacturing workforce. We work with contract manufacturers. But I guess there's probably, 700 or 800 employees globally right now. I guess when I joined them in Australia and moved to the US, there's probably 100.
Wow. What do you think attributes to WD-40's success? Outside of your influence, from marketing standpoint, because you said it's in 187 countries, you said?
176 countries.
176. Okay. I'm dyslexic. But anyway, okay. And then as far as the manufacturing, is that done in a number of countries that are within reasonable proximity of these other 176 countries that for distribution purposes?
Yeah, I'll answer your first question, which was what makes WD-40 the product it is. It's an honest product.
Mm-hmm.
It does what it's supposed to do. It creates heroes. It creates positive, lasting memories. We respect our end users. Where we manufacture, we manufacture as close to our end users as possible. I think in the US, there are probably, I'm going off memory now, there's probably more. There's probably 8 manufacturing sites that we partner with in the US that manufacture the product. We also own 3-in-1 oil, so we manufacture that as well. And then there's a whole line of other product called WD-40 Specialist, which is a range of special solutions for different maintenance challenges. And then we manufacture in, about probably another 13 countries around the world with our manufacturing partners.
So WD-40, which I have used since I was a kid. Okay. And what was interesting is I had an old, I'm going to say mechanic, kind of introduced me to WD-40. And the thing that I thought was interesting is that he referenced fish oil. Now, I don't know if that's an actual ingredient or not, but it's like he would sit there before he would, after he was working on a car, motorcycle, or a tractor or something like that, he would take WD-40, he would spray it on his hands, wipe his hands down, and then he would go to his lunchbox. Now we're talking 60s, right? And he would pull out a sandwich and his little the little coffee thing there, whatever, I forget what they call those, canteen thingy, and I was like, okay, so it's a hand cleaner, but yet it's safe. It's not like like a real chemical or anything like that. What can you reveal? Some of the special stuff that's in WD-40, and I think I was listening to one of your interviews, and you actually said that nobody really knows what it is, because you'll find it when you walk into a store. It's in different departments. That's how versatile WD-40 is. So can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah. Well, when you talk about the formula, it's a secret formula.
Okay.
I'll tell you one thing. There's no fish oil in it.
There's no fish oil. Okay.
Yeah. But it is a secret formula, and it's still a secret. It's like Coca-Cola. We manufacture, or WD-40 company manufactures, a concentrate which has the magic ingredients in it and then that concentrate is shipped to the packages, and then the packages turn it into the dispensable product, whether it be an aerosol can or in bulk form or in pump form or whatever. But there is no fish oil in it.
There's no fish oil. Okay.
It's a petroleum-based product, so I don't know that I'd be, I'd probably wash my hands after I used it. But there's nothing in it really that is harmful if you use it as it's supposed to be used. And over the period of time, we reformulated some of the ingredients to make it even safer than it was in the beginning, reducing the volatile organic compounds in it, making it safer for the environment, changing the propellant from a hydrocarbon to a gas propellant. So, and then, inventing a number of delivery systems on the top of the can, from the Smart Straw, which is that flop up, to the new one, which is the Easy Reach, which is that 8-inch kind of bendable straw.
So, talk about your can you talk about your competitors a little bit? Some of the other companies out there. I mean, there's obviously Deep Creek, which is with Seafoam. Then there's JB, it used to be JB 180, which is Justice Brothers. Then there was PB Blaster. Then there's Croyle. Those are just a few to come to mind. But WD-40 seems to work, for the most part, pretty good. I mean, we've had some trouble with some really, 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 really rusty stuff. But for the most part, it works, like you said, as a lubricant, a rust inhibitor, to clean tools, your hands. It's a very versatile product. It really is.
Well, that's what it's meant to be. The original product is a multi-use product. It performs a number of functions. There are some other products, some of them you mentioned, that are more specific around specific uses. But if you want a multi-purpose product that you can depend on every day, the blue and yellow can with the little red top is the one. However, what we have developed, or what they did develop, is a range of products. We have WD-40 Specialist Penetrant now. So if you want a penetrant to get to work with those really hard seized nuts, WD-40 might work, but WD-40 Specialist Penetrant is really focused on that penetration loosening aspect. So, there are other products out there. WD-40 is the market leader. It has been for 70 years. And if people choose other products, that's okay. But we are, WD-40 is that multi-use product that you can depend on, and you can just get it just about anywhere.
Let's talk a little bit about the going back to the book. Are there any particular chapters in there? I mean, how did you write the book? How is it structured? Is it like a storyline? Is it a how-to book? Explain to us how the book, any dumbass can do it. Just give her kind of a chapter by chapter overview.
So I wrote the book as if it was you and I sitting down having a conversation about what's important to be in leadership to create great cultures in organizations. So it starts off with my awareness of, how I thought about servant leadership, right through to the last chapter, which is don't float into a void, which is really about, if you've been in a role for a long, long time and it's time to do something else, make sure that you're clear about what your purpose is and what you want to do. And there's a lot of stories in the book, story about how I got locked out in the rain in London because I didn't listen to the alarm bell of the hotel, a story about when I worked on a trade show stand in Beijing and what I learned from Chinese end users. There's a story about the recombobulation zone, which is in one of the airports in the US. So I try to talk about 27 chapters of real life experiences of what I've actually experienced in the time that I was privileged, and we use the word privileged, to lead WD-40 over the many years. And the wonderful thing about each chapter, at the end of each chapter, there's a little section that says, what's the best thing I should do now? What's the worst thing I should do now? And what's the first thing I should do now in relation to the information that was in the book? So, and I was really honored. Bob Sutton, he wrote a book called No Arsehole Factor, I think it was. He said this is the most useful, fun, and BS-free book he's ever read by a veteran CEO. And, people like Simon Sinek and Amy Edmondson and Marshall Goldsmith and others have all said that the book is something that is full of real life experiences.
When they use the term flat and middle management and then the hierarchy, kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I don't believe in hierarchy.
Okay.
I mean, hierarchy is for, kingdoms. I think that organizations being flat, and I don't know that the word is flat is a good one either. I think for people in an organization, there needs to be a few things in place. Do people feel like and know that they belong? And that happens when people within the organization treat each other with respect and dignity. They care about each other. Do people in organizations know that and can see that the work they do matters and it makes a difference? That's about, really recognizing the work we do. And then is there a environment where fear is lowered by, instead of looking at failure, we look at learning? And then do people look at their leader or their manager not as a manager but as a coach? Our job is to coach people to play their best game. You manage your bank account and inventory. What we're there to do is coach our people and help them play their best game, because I want them to go home happy. I often say, Robert, imagine a place where you go to work every day, you make a contribution to something bigger than yourself, you learn something new, you're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and you go home happy. Happy people create happy families create happy communities, and happy communities create a happy world. And I think we'd all agree right now a little happier world would be a good thing.
Oh, no doubt. We're on the same page there. Let's talk a little bit about micromanagement. Okay, now your culture in business applies to whether I have a small business and I got 5 employees, or I got a big business and I got 700 employees. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 7,000.
Or 7,000, right. So let's talk about micromanagement, because this is an issue that, because we're dealing with egos very often, and that gets into the hierarchy, and that gets into that white collar versus blue collar thing. And so from my perspective, the reason I say that is because I used to be in the wrecking yard business. So I had probably 15 people working for me at one point in time, right? But just like you said, when you get into that stinky locker room, that was me. I was out there pulling parts, cutting up, torching things apart, loading my truck. I mean, I was up front in the counter and making sales and stuff like that, but I actually enjoyed being out back more. And I was working with everybody. We interact, and if I didn't know something, I'd ask one of my guys. They had more experience in some area aspect of it. So it was almost like there was this camaraderie, but I see that when you, and we didn't micromanage. And so, or I did rather. But I see that with a lot of companies, and it creates a lot of friction and animosity, and that exactly what you're talking about. I don't feel right. I don't feel good. I don't really like this, but I got to be here against my better judgment because it's a job.
Well, micromanagement sucks. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and the micromanager is the person who's always whinging and moaning about how much they have to do, how busy they are. And if they, instead of micromanaging, if they spent their time teaching and coaching the people they have in their organization to do the job instead of trying to interfere with their work, they would have a happier life. And the people in the organization would feel so much like they belong and that they matter.
And do you also agree that the CEO of the company, who now should take the position that he should be a coach and work with everybody, that he should delegate the responsibility and let those people make decisions? Because if you hire somebody and you trust that employee, you basically said, okay, I trust you. You're kind of like with my business. I want you to make good, prudent decisions, but not every decision is going to be perfect. And it may not be up to my expectation, but you made an effort, you worked at it. And if there was an issue, you worked around it, you corrected it, you resolved it. So expand on that.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that the leader or the CEO or the owner has to do. Firstly, they have to create an environment where that person feels safe. So is there a clearly defined set of values in the organization that help those people make their decisions? Because if you don't give people some sort of free space, or if you will, a lane to operate in, then how are they going to make a good decision? So you have to make sure there's values in place. Secondly, it's the responsibility of the leader, the CEO, or the owner to ensure that the right training is brought to that person so that their capabilities are at a stage, at a level where they can make those decisions. But you're a car guy. Let's say we're going to the Indianapolis 500 that ran this weekend, and you throw me, Gary, in a car and say, drive around this track with all these other blokes. Well, I'd end up in that wall quicker than anybody else because I don't know how to do it. But the drivers who are trained and have experiences and expertise, that they don't want someone else putting their head in the window and saying, "Hey, go a little faster, go a little slower." They know what they're doing because they've been trained around it.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you this other question. How often, as a CEO or the leader, group leader, how often do you think you should have meetings in a company? And is it relative to the size and the amount of employees? But let's just say meetings, let's say you got a small business, 10, 15 people, something like that. What would you suggest?
What's a meeting?
Well, a meeting like where you get your staff together and you say, "Hey, look, I want to know how we're doing, how we're progressing, how is everybody feeling? Are we making progress here? Is everybody happy with their job? How are we doing in marketing? How are we doing in sales? How are we doing in production? Things like that."
Well, you don't have to have a meeting to do that. A great leader is wandering around the organization, having those micro meetings on a consistent basis.
Okay.
So, I used to spend so much of my time wandering around the world talking to my people. What's on your mind? What's getting in your way? What can we do better? How do you feel? Where can we improve? What should we change? Now, if you want to have a formal gathering and get together, that's time for, town hall meetings, a time for sharing information and having celebrations. But that's the problem. You don't have to call a formal meeting to hear what your people have to say and to benefit from their experience. What you have to do is get your shoes dirty and wander around your business and in a very authentic way, ask them a simple question. Are you okay? What's on your mind? How can I help?
When you first got into so when you went from Australia to California, did you immediately step into the CEO position, or did you have another little other positions and you had kind of worked your way up?
When I moved, I wasn't the CEO. I was managing director of the Australian subsidiary for 10 years.
Okay.
And then I moved to the US, and then I was director and then vice president of our international operations for 3 years before I was given the privilege to lead the company as CEO.
So when you were the CEO, and let's say some of your other job descriptions, did you already have that philosophy? Did you actually get down on the floor and walk around and kind of network with? And I'm using the word network. It's like you walked up to some employees arbitrarily and said, "Hey, how things are going in certain divisions and certain aspects of the business." And like you said, it's like, why should you have a meeting? Just kind of walk around, see what's going on, and keep an eye. I mean, your eyes don't lie. They tell you what's going on, and you can kind of see if things are working right or if they're not. And if they are, is that kind of when you jumped in and say, "Hey, look, what can we do? What can we do to make things better?"
Well, as I shared with you very early in this conversation, what I really loved was the interaction with people. So I think I've always been someone who did that. As the CEO, I had to learn to do it in a different way because, a lot of CEOs were seen as being this authoritarian, command and control person. That wasn't me. So, about 2 years after I became CEO, I actually went back to school and did a degree in servant leadership to really understand, what I didn't know that well. And that was important. So, I was on a continual learning curve.
Okay. I want to jump over to your quiz. that you have on your website. Now, I actually took your quiz last night, and after listening to some of your videos, and I scored an 87. I guess if they
Congratulations.
Thank you. And there was a couple of questions in there, and this is can you highlight some of the questions? One of them was, and I should have pulled it up here before I got the show going. I was my bad here, but a couple of them were like this. So do you interact with your people? So everything that you've discussed, I've always done. Okay. And I just did it because it just seemed natural to me. And because I was in the mix with everybody. Okay. But there was a couple of questions on there. One was like, when you make a decision, and I'm not sure if I'm phrasing this right, but you can expound on it. Do you take charge? Do you get feedback from everybody else, or do you ultimately make your own decision? So I've always said that I will listen to you. I will listen to that guy, and that guy. And then because I'm an intuitive kind of individual, I'll formulate my own opinion and make my own decision that I think is best for everybody. So I think that was a mark against me. But go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, it probably wasn't a mark against you. I mean, the whole purpose is making sure that you're open to hearing others. Your ears are open to others. But, you know, as a leader, at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. And the whole purpose of, you know, leadership is gaining as much insight and as much information as you can and as much knowledge as you can around making that decision. So I'm not sure you got marked down on that one, but if you got 87, I'm going to tell you, you're high on the score of dumbassery. and the higher dumbassery score you are, the more superpower you have.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. But all right, so pick out a couple other questions on there, and we got a few minutes here. We got about another 5 or 6 minutes. Talk a little bit about some of the other questions and how they related to you.
Well, you know, I think the whole quiz is really about understanding if you as a leader are engaging your people, if you as a leader are open to, you know, understanding you don't have all the answers. You know, there's about 20 questions there, and I don't have them in front of me either right now, but so it's hard for me to, you know, verbatim bring them to you. But you know, the challenge would be for our listeners is to go to the website and do the quiz, and they can see all the questions themselves.
Well, while we're on the subject, why don't you go ahead and give out the information on the website and then on the book as well. So if somebody's listening right now, they can run to Amazon to get the book and go to your website.
Yeah, the website is www.thelearningmoment.net. And up on the top band, as you did, you'll see the thing that says the quiz. Press on the quiz, take the dumbassery quiz. At the end of the quiz, it'll ask you for your email address. And if you put that in, and I hope you did, you would have got sent a workbook which talks about the 3 or 4 things you can start doing straight away. So it's a bit of fun. I promise you, I won't be harassing you because you put your email in.
No. I did, by the way.
Yeah. And if the book is available on Amazon, you just go to Amazon and look for Any Dumbass Can Do It. And it's available right there right now. And if you'd like the audio version, there's an audio version as well. And there's a Kindle version. So it's out there. And I'm very pleased. It was number 10 bestseller on the USA Today bestseller list as it launched. So that was pretty cool.
Where did the title originate?
Out of my mouth.
Okay. Well, did somebody bring it up one time? Is it something that you just said, well, this is a very fitting title? It's obviously unusual, but I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, it's the latter. And the reason the title is very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that if you understand the ingredients and the environment that needs to be in place to build great cultures within organizations, and you are committed to consistently executing around those, you can build great places where people want to go to work and go home happy. And any dumbass can really do that.
Okay.
So that's really, and you know, I am the dean of dumbassery.
Okay. Now, I one of the questions I had was, who are some of your influences? Are there other executives in the corporate world that were some of your influences over the years?
Well, there were more people that I respect, like Dr. Ken Blanchard, the 1 Minute Manager.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote the foreword to my book. He's a very, very dear friend of mine. He's now 85 years old, and he lives close to my house. And, we see each other on occasions. And, and then I've learned from people like Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall was the coach to Alan Mullally, who pulled Ford out of, the ashes. And then people like Simon Sinek, Amy Edmondson, Adam Grant, all of these people I've had the opportunity to learn off. Chester Elton, who is all about, the power of organizations that have principles around belonging. He wrote a great book that's just wonderful. So, there's a lot of people.
Real quick, because we only have about like 45, 50 seconds left. When people get degrees, MBAs, on and on and on, do you think that creates more of an ego issue with some of these people?
Some it might. Some it might not.
Well, do you feel that there's too much emphasis placed on college degrees for CEOs?
I think the emphasis is on learning. I didn't get a college degree until I was already CEO of WD-40. So, I got a master's degree 2 years into being CEO. Before that, I was just this dumbass from Australia.
Well, on that note, Dean of Damassery, I'm going to consider myself part of your tribe. So, but I really, truly enjoyed having you on the show. It was certainly a pleasure. We'll have to do this again sometime. Do you frequent do you go on a lecture circuit or anything like that at all?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I speak at a number of events. I think I'm speaking at the National Car Wash Association conference later this year in Atlantic City.
Okay. Anything in Florida? Anything on your schedule?
No, I was in Florida a few months ago speaking at the National Association of Farmers, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you do something in Florida or in Southeast here, definitely keep us in the loop, and then maybe we can do some cross promoting, because we'd love to have you back on the show again, because it was very, very interesting. And one more time for our listeners, go ahead, Gary, give out the information so they can find out more about you.
Yeah, www.thelearningmoment.net, or follow me on LinkedIn. You'll find me there.
Okay, very good. Well, Gary, thank you very much. I want to thank my special guest, Gary Ridge, for hanging out with us here, the author of the book, Any Dumbass Can Do It, and the former CEO of the Little Red Top Company in the blue can, WD-40. Gary, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, good day, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, I want to thank all my listeners for tuning into Nostalgic Radio Cars. Don't forget to check us out here every Tuesday between 7 and 8 p.m. on the TAN Talk Radio Network. Don't forget to share, like, and all that good Facebook stuff. And big shout out to my 50th anniversary. High school thing coming up. Don't forget to check out FastlaneTravel.com if you want to find out about some of our driving tours this fall. In the last week in October, we got the Moonshine Driving Festival or tour thingy, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Check out FastlaneTravel.com. Ed, thanks a lot. Meantime, I want all you guys out there in cars, drive your boats, drive your motorcycles, stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
Listen.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Jennifer Kuiper on the Harvard University campus.
Where's our funding now, our friends? Where's our funding now?
A protest as President Trump tries to rescind more federal money from the university. Harvard is suing the Trump administration, saying the funding freeze is part of the government's efforts to control policies at the Ivy League school. The Trump administration claims the university is not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism and is engaging in race discrimination, including in its admissions process and in other areas of student life. The Trump administration is freezing all new student visa interviews at all U.S.